Hello and welcome back. In the previous part, we set the width property for each part of the header, but as you saw, they are not still next to each other, and it is because the display behavior, the default display value for each part. Let's take a look again here in the browser with the opening inspect element or developer tool here. If you move your mouse over the class logo, the div with the class logo here, you will see that in the style part you have width as 25%, but you have something else under here and it says display block. Using display property, you can change the default display behavior in the browser. This is block admin, and it means the whole width of the browser window, as much as this needs to occupy. And also for the nav element, when you click on the nav element, you will see that the default value, this gray part here, you cannot change the value here for this default. The display property is block, and again for the login part, the display is block. So using this inspect part, you can see the default properties that are set for each element in the browser. For different browser, you have this part as well. Anyway, if I want to fix this situation here, I can use display property. So inside my CSS file, I can use display property for each part of the header. Press enter here. I say display, the property display, and you will see that display property has different values. We have block, we have flex, we have grid, we have inline, inline block, and other values as well. If I set the value for this property for the logo part as inline block, in addition to width property, just the width that you specify will be occupied using this element, using every element that has this class, the logo class name. So if I say display inline block for this, and I just press Ctrl C to copy this line and paste it for the login part, and also for the menu part, and save, you will see that the logo part and this menu part are next to each other, but not the login part because of the width property. I click on the login part here, and inside the style part, I click on the width property, the value for the width property. Instead of 25%, I say 20%. You will see that now the login part is next to the other parts in the header. So one way to bring all of these elements inside one block is that to use display property with the value inline block. Another way is that to define the outer part of all of these elements. It means the part that will wrap all these elements. I mean this div element that contains all the other elements in the header part, and set the value for and set the property for this div element instead of defining the display behavior for each of these elements. So here I will remove display inline block, or I just comment this for all the rules, logo, login, and menu here using Ctrl/ and Ctrl/. And instead, I will define a rule for the outer block. The outer block here is div. If I want to use div as the selector for this part, it means all the div elements. But I don't want to change all the div elements now, because I may use div elements in the other part of my HTML document too. Instead, I will assign a class name or an ID for this part. For example, this is the opening tag you see here, and the closing tag is here. If you remember, I said that if you click on the opening tag, the closing tag will be highlighted inside VS Code, or vice versa. If I click on the closing tag, the opening tag will be displayed for me. And of course, when you click on an element inside your HTML document, you can see the path to access to that element. Here, div with class logo, nav with class menu, under the div part, under the header, in the body, in the HTML, and inside your HTML document with the index.html name. But for here, I want to define a class name as head. This is head part of my HTML template. And inside the CSS file, in the section for header rules, I will define a rule for head using dot and head. And I will say display property for this element should be flex. Now let's see what will happen. I save display inline block for the other elements are commented, and the head part has the display property with the value flex, and inside index this part is head part of my HTML document with the class head. Now you will see that using display flex you can organize the item inside that flex box. When you set the display property for an item, for an element inside your HTML document with a flex value, I mean this display with a flex value, you will consider that element as a flex box, and every item inside the flex box will be organized as it's defined. The logo part needs 25%, the menu part needs 50%, and the login part needs 25%. So because of this, you will see all these items are next to each other because the outer block, the parent of all these children, has the display property with the value flex. And when one element inside your HTML document has the display property with the value flex, inside the developer tools, in the style parts, if you click on that element, for example here head, you will see that display flex, you will see like this icon in this part, and if you click on this you can access to the other properties that are related to the flex value, and you can use them and see if there is anything difference when you use them. For example, if I use flex wrap as wrap or a no wrap, there is no difference here. But if I choose align items, as you see, the default value is normal if you don't assign this. But if I click on each of them as center, they are all in the center of the flex box. Top means here, bottom means here, flex start means start of the flex box, flex end at the end of the flex box, a stretch means the whole height of the flex box. You can see here because they don't have any height property or any background color, and baseline. The baseline is here. In different situations, you can use different values and see what will happen. For me, the thing that I need here is to use align items as center for now. You see here, inside my template, everything inside the header part is in the center of this line. So here I can use aligns item as center, and I don't need the flex wrap. You can check and uncheck the values that you define here and see the difference here as well. I remove the display flex, so all the items are the same as the thing that I have. First, check the flex like this and aligns item as center. And you see here all the items inside is in the center of the flex container or the flex box. I want to use this rule inside my CSS file or this declaration inside my CSS file, and I don't want to write it again in my CSS file because I assign it here and I want to use the thing that I defined already here inside my HTML, inside my CSS file. Here I right click on the thing or on the declaration or on the rule that I want. You have copy declaration to copy this declaration. Copy declaration, and inside my CSS file for the head part I press an enter, Ctrl V, so I have this declaration here as well. If you want to copy the whole rule that you define here, just right click on the rule on the selector and you have the copy rule here. This CSS file is saved. Now you see that all these parts are in the center of this flex container. We also have different ways to do that. We may change this later in this course, but for now this is okay for me. The next thing that I want to do is that I want to put all these menu items inside one line instead of separate lines. As you see, each item in the menu is on the separate line, but I want all of them in one line. As I have inside my template, they are not on top of each other, they are next to each other. And also for login and register, I want them on top of each other, not next to each other. If you want to know how I will fix this menu and the login part, join me in the next video.